researcher. So I'd like to introduce Dr. John Drake, who's the Associate Professor of Computer Science at Leicester University. Thank you.
Thank you. So, yeah, my name's John Drake, and I was a PGR once. It sounds a little bit like a sort of confessional piece. But actually, I mean, you know, although in many senses, you know, I still think I'm a PGR now, 10 years later. You know, although my role has changed over time, you know, many of the things that I do on a weekly basis, such as attending events like this one, are very much the same as when I was a PGR. And so today I'll kind of cover my journey from PGR to faculty member, trying to focus on the importance of collaboration and the significance that collaboration has had on my career and the path that my career's taken. So just to give it a kind of brief background of who I am and my sort of background. So I'm currently an associate professor in informatics at the University of Leicester and a visiting research fellow with BT Applied Research. So I'm principally, you know, my background is in computer science. My undergraduate's in computer science, and I've been associated as a computer science faculty member for about 9 to 10 years now. As part of my previous roles at Queen Mary and the University of Nottingham, it's perhaps worth mentioning that I had significant experience on the China programs at these two institutions. So whilst at Queen Mary, I was a visiting professor at Beijing University of Post and Telecommunications, and whilst working for Nottingham, I was kind of heavily involved in the Ningbo campus of the University of Nottingham. Something is perhaps worth mentioning on this slide, that professionally I've always gone by John H. Drake. It's not because I'm particularly pretentious or anything like that, but more because, you know, I've actually got quite a boring common name. So if you go to Scopus, there's 30 or 40 John Drakes. And actually even a few more John H. Drake. So my first bit of advice is to make sure that you claim your name online and have the profile set up from an early stage. And just to kind of give it a bit of a flavour, I mean, I'm not going to go into details about my actual research expertise, but in case anyone is interested, you know, I work at the interface between AI and operational research. Where operational research is the science of decision making and applying advanced analytical methods to help help people make better decisions. And so my work has typically involved developing intelligent support systems to be applied to real world optimization problems. And so typical application areas include airport, aviation, healthcare, transportation, logistics, etc., etc. And from a more blue skies kind of pure research perspective, and what perhaps, you know, differentiates this from just consulting and helping companies optimize their operations, is that, you know, really what I want to do is automate the algorithm design process. So write computer programs that are able to write computer programs for us to help us in decision-making process. So before I kind of talk about my own research experience, I think there's a couple of things I'd kind of quite like to highlight about experience more generally. So you may have come across this kind of stated in one way or another before. But I really think it's important to note that you know, there's a big difference between simply working in the field for a long time and having a real depth to that experience. And you know, try to state this in terms of, you know, having 15 years real in-depth experience versus having 15 lots of the kind of the same single year experience over and over. And I think it's important. You know, I think this is probably relevant for all stages of careers, that, you know, people should be wary of falling into the trap of having the same single year's worth of experience over and over again. You know, it's important to ensure that you kind of continue to challenge yourself, learning new skills, and don't just repeat the same year over and over. And I think experience, so when I really was an early career researcher, just starting out, lack of experience was probably the most frustrating thing to deal with. I think, you know, when we're younger, we can be a little bit impatient at times, and I think, you know, often it's not necessarily your capability, but often your experience and your track record that starts to open doors and opportunities. And so the metaphor that I'll perhaps try to use here to kind of illustrate the effect of you know, investing in your experience is the butterfly effect. So I think you know, many people will have kind of come across this in some sense before. But you know, the butterfly effect is this idea that, you know, small changes early on in some system or process can have kind of huge consequences later on down the line. And the classic example we have is is a butterfly flapping its wings on one side of the world and starting a hurricane or a tornado on the other. So how that kind of fits into sort of my to my research career, and I think this slide is very much the story of my career and the collaborations that I've had so far. And it's quite nice to talk at this level because really, you know, I spend a lot of time talking about, you know, the ins and outs of the methods and the problems that we're solving, and the algorithms that we develop. But it's not always that I get the opportunity to kind of think about it at this higher level of what's the narrative arc and what's the story and how do these collaborations kind of fit together. And so really where I started out as a poor PhD student at the University of Nottingham was working on some kind of toy academic, very, very artificial academic problems in bin packing. And so we would develop some new algorithms for bin packing that would help reduce the waste. We'd test these algorithms on a set of known benchmarks and we'd compare to the kind of existing research in the literature. I mean, this was nice research to do because it was easy to explain, it was easy to motivate why it was a good idea, I could explain to my family what I was doing, but I always found it difficult to answer the kind of so what question. So who cares? Well, who are you developing these algorithms for? Who's going to use it? And it's something that was very limiting in the early work that I did. And then I had a conversation at the I4's conference. It's a big operational research conference, probably around 3,000 participants every 3 years, with somebody working for a company called Banedanmark. So this is the company in charge of Danish rail infrastructure, managing the maintenance and deployment of all of the infrastructure of the railways in Denmark. And we'd identified a kind of area where some of the algorithms that we've been developing at Nottingham could be applied to some of the problems that they had in Banedanmark. And what this focused on was in short, you know, calculating efficient routes for their maintenance engineers to go around and carry out all of the maintenance tasks that needed to be completed. And so following on from that, I probably had this seminal point in my career, this big turning point, where I attended my first Tommy Flowers event. And actually I was over at Industrial Park discussing potential collaboration with Fraser Burton. And he was kind enough to invite me and a number of the researchers from Queen Mary over to Industrial Park for the first Tommy Flowers network event in 2017. And from this, I was introduced to one of the BT research teams working on a tool called iPatch. And you know, in some sense, BT and Banedanmark share some kind of commonalities in the sense that they're, you know, both very, very large national level infrastructure managers. And although the areas that they're working in are perhaps different, the fundamentals of the underlying challenges, so this kind of notion of right people, right place, right time, is present in lots of the different problems found by each company. And so we spent a couple of years working on figuring out how to decide the composition of the engineering teams and the areas that they're working for. And so not necessarily by design. At this point, I've kind of now got the combined experience that I was looking for back when I was an early researcher. Developing and delivering decision support systems for kind of large critical national infrastructure companies, giving me the credibility and the confidence to set up some of the ongoing projects that I've got with other companies. And just a kind of couple of other notes. So this also led to me working as a visiting research fellow, as I mentioned at the start, working on network design optimization problems and robust service routing for BT's media and broadcast services. And so I think the kind of two core things to kind of take away from this slide are that, there's a lot of different projects on there, a lot of different application areas, but there's two core events there that really helped set this chain of events off. And it's the conversation at I4s with the Banner Denmark guys and the attending of, and interacting with the Tommy Flowers network are the two things that really unlock these opportunities. And, without those conferences and without that interaction, these projects would never have happened. And just as a side, the good news, the bin packing did lead somewhere. We did eventually find someone in 3D printing who was interested in using the methods, but that was a long time later. So moving forward as a PGR, and I think really just some quick advice of things to focus on. And this is really looking forward at post-PhD, whether or not it's in research or academia. And these are the sort of three things that I'd perhaps kind of highlight. So make sure that you network. I really used to hate networking. I was one of those people who would turn up 10 minutes late and take a walk at lunchtime so that I didn't have to talk to anybody. But I promise you, it does get easier over time. And actually, one of the biggest issues over time is that you can fall into the trap of networking with the same people over and over again. And so, really, one of the things that I try to do is to aim to kind of meet someone new at each conference. Related to networking is looking for a critical mass. I was very lucky to be involved in a large project at the start of my career on my PhD. And the community that kind of that opens you up to is something that is very helpful in the kind of longer term. Things like I think the learned societies are a good way to find critical mass if you can't find a natural fit. So people like the IET, the IEEE, ACM, and events like Tommy Flowers. And really, building a portfolio of success stories. I think, academia and industry collaboration, it's all about applied research. And so the ability to deliver is absolutely vital. I think research is about momentum, and this is explaining my little picture in the corner here. It can take time to build up, but once that snowball effect starts to kick in, over time, the one thing will lead to another. And this is just a quick note, actually, for advice for early PhDs. Read this book. I wish somebody had told me to do that in the first year of my PhD. Okay, so that's my kind of brief whistle-stop tour. I think I'm someone who primarily sits in academia, but have had extensive collaboration with industry, and it is possible to keep a foot in both camps. I think BT has been excellent, certainly from what I've seen, at exploiting the opportunities for mutually beneficial for collaboration. I know that there's people from SMEs that attend these events, and I think there's a wealth of often funded opportunities out there for win-wins in academic collaboration for SMEs. Often the biggest limitation is knowing what's out there in terms of opportunities. And so for anyone who's there in an SME who's looking for collaborations, there's a lot of academics who are out there eager to collaborate. You just might not have made the right connection yet. So keep speaking to people because the opportunities and certainly the funding is out there. Okay, thank you. That's all from me.